What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Happy you are here today, because today we're going to be breaking down the Q&A session that developers had on the forums just the other day. And I have to say, this is definitely one of the more interesting Q&A forum posts because they answered a lot more hardball questions than usual, and we got a lot of insight towards the future. A new raid in the works, hopefully for early 2020, that's even going to include apparently ships as some of the phases. We got a little insight into the epic confrontation going to be happening soon. We also know that there's going to be more capital ship leaders coming, and so much more, especially what's going to be after the Clone Wars era. So guys, buckle down and let's start breaking down this fun Q&A post we have here today. So to kick off this video today, I want to talk about something that I think is really important, because right now in Galaxy Heroes, we're all playing catch up. We're trying to catch up on new characters, and some people are still trying to catch up on the past few characters. And for new players, you got everything to catch up on. So one thing I've been advocating for a long time is something to help new players catch up to the veteran players to some good extent. And we're finally seeing Capital Games give us a little insight onto in regards to how they're going to help newer players, even just people in the mid game, try to catch up a little bit. And here they say they're going to give us some more details sometime in September, but what they're working for is trying to have some sort of update, which is trying to help their core events such as legendaries and journeys. So Palpatine, Yoda, Commander Luke Skywalker, moving them out of a calendar rotation, aka not waiting every 3 months for them to come back, and instead making them a standing event that players can start to interact with whenever they're ready. I love what they're going with this. And just for a brief moment, I want to take you on a little adventure over to my Marvel Strike Force. In case you didn't know, I actually have a second channel playing Marvel Strike Force. I've been loving it. I'm a new player in the game, so if you want to go get some new beginner guides, just kind of see me progress in the game, link down below as well as the top right hand corner. Then check out my second channel on Marvel Strike Force. But as we see here, I made a video about this the other day. They recently reduced the requirements for the Iron Man Legendary. Usually you need 5-star shield characters to get the character. Well, now they basically made the event perpetual, where it's going to be there all the time whenever you're ready for a new player. And they also reduced the star count, so to unlock Iron Man, instead of it being a 5-star legendary unlock, it's a 3-star legendary unlock. And I hope they do the same thing in Galaxy of Heroes. Like, honestly, at this point, I don't know if it's really necessary to have Palpatine be a 5-star unlock or Yoda be a 5-star unlock. Those should be some of the first legendary characters that people should get, because they should be very easy to acquire, because shooting after Jedi Knight Revan first or something like that as one of your first journey characters is a long, and for a new player, you want to get hands-on to a fun character right away. So I think it'd be great, not just having the Palpatine or Yoda event or Commander Luke Skywalker event be a perpetual thing that's going to be there every single day whenever you're ready for it. I think they also should try to knock down the star requirements of it, having Palpatine be a 3-star unlock, because unlocking Palpatine as a new player would be super easy, and it's kind of a fun, exciting feeling to get your first legendary character. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts, especially beginner players and mid-game players. Let me know down below what would be other great ways to help new players catch up a bit. Moving on, we have a lot of new content discussion going on here, and one of the game modes that it's kind of been lackluster, it's been unused. Once you finally sim Galactic War, usually at that point you stop using it and you just sim it, get your rewards. Rewards are still good in it, but in terms of content, there's not much to play. And for end game players, even for mid game players, Galactic War is not a good spot to really test out characters and teams, because the teams you fight are random and they might not be that good of a team. But it's great for beginner players to start understanding what teams beat what characters. So someone asked the question, are they going to implement some sort of game mode where you can use every single character you have in some sort of endless game mode? They reference Galactic War. They couldn't give anything in specifics as to what's going to be coming, but they do have a lot of different ways that they're going to approach the problem, and they do have some ideas that they're going to try to implement in Galaxy Heroes. That'd be a great thing. Finding something that uses your whole roster would be great. I mean, Blitz and Marvel Strike Force is kind of something we want, or the tournament system that used to be in Galaxy Heroes would be kind of that endless game mode where you can use your roster to its fullest extent. But I think they had cheating problems, which is why they shut it down for Galaxy Heroes. But it would be great to revive Galactic War or get a tournament system, so at least it's on their mind and they're exploring options at the time being. I want to talk about the neutral tag. We've had this neutral tag in Galaxy Heroes for at least a year, 2 years maybe at the very most, and it's never been utilized. And before I read the answer here, a while ago, back in May, there was a podcast done on the Escape podcast where the question came up if Hondo's ever going to come to Galaxy Heroes, and the answer we got were with the ex-senior producer, Carrie. They basically said that Hondo and his crew are on the to-do list, but they couldn't give a concrete time frame as to when they'll come. And the question came back up if the neutral tag is ever going to be used, and the short answer they gave was yes, they plan on using it sometime soon, but again, no timeline plans they have to announce just yet. And this kind of sounds the same thing as what Carrie said. So maybe this neutral tag will be used for Hondo Ohnaka and his crew, because he really wasn't an evil guy, but he wasn't a good guy. He kind of kept flipping on both sides depending on who was giving him the better deal. So my theory is probably when the Clone Wars TV show gets released in February, after Rise of Skywalker and all this stuff, we might come back to Clone Wars content and maybe Hondo Ohnaka, which we know they want to bring into the game. They just don't have a timeline just yet. Maybe that's when the neutral tag will be finally used. And finally, the battle for the Sandbox mode looks like it's finally going to be one for the community. I mean, this has been a long, difficult discussion between community and the studio, where originally they were a hard no, that no, we're not going to add a sandbox, but we don't know how to make it worthwhile. We don't know if, I mean, basically how do you make money off it, probably. That's my guess right there. And finally, the question came back up yet again for a sandbox. What happens every single time, each and every time, the conversation gets better and better and better for us. And finally, we got an answer saying that this is not only a popular request from players outside the studio, but also is a very popular request inside of the studio. And finally, an engaging sandbox feature is an important part of the future feature set of SWGoH. And they don't have any details they could say right now in terms of how it's going to work, but they could certainly tell us that the plan the plan is to have this feature in the book. So it's something they're going to start hopefully working on. Again, I think really the best sandbox mode is a blitz game mode that satisfies the endless horde mode we talked about a while ago. And also, I think it would also satisfy sandbox mode. But it's great to see we're going to get something implemented back in Galaxy. Now, this is interesting. Ships. And we all know that ships isn't probably the most interesting content, but as of now, but the plans they have moving forward really kind of sparked my interest a little bit. We're going to talk a lot about ships in today's video. Apparently get ship battles in the next epic confrontation. We'll talk about the epic confrontation in a moment here. It's basically, it seems like it's in the final stages right now. I mean, it's also going to come to Grand Arena Championships, and it's also going to be coming in an upcoming raid. We have some more details on the raids in a second here. And so with the epic confrontation, we've been talking about General Skywalker being added soon. We think that's going to be the next epic confrontation character to surpass Darth Revan and Darth Malak. We see the Galactic Republic's kind of almost at that breaking point to getting to the next level. Will this Anakin Skywalker event have a ship component to it? Because now we know that there is an epic confrontation event with ships. Is this in regards to Anakin Skywalker, or is this epic confrontation event going to be Grievous's capital ship? We already saw the whole entire Grievous capital ship gameplay and all that stuff about 2-3 months ago whenever the Vulture droid came out. Maybe General Grievous's ship is supposed to be the epic confrontation event. It's hard to say at this point. This kind of threw us in a loop. We just know that ships is going to be needed, and it could be very well possible that ships, there'll be a ship component to General Skywalker. So maybe you need Shock Teen the clones for the character portion, and then you're going to need ships for the ship portion of General Skywalker. It's going to be interesting to see where they're heading off with this Grand Arena Championships. I know a lot of people like ships and Grand Arena Championships. Personally, I do not like ships and Grand Arena Championships. That's just my opinion. But maybe moving forward, as we're going to see, maybe they'll make it a bit more interesting, because right now, the reason why I don't like ships and Grand Arena Championships is it's very one-sided for Falcon. If you have a God tier Falcon team, you're probably going to win that match. And if you don't have a God tier Falcon team, well, thanks for playing, buddy. And the raid. Let's talk about this raid for a moment right now. Ships, there's first of all, a new raid planned for early 2020, people. So we're probably maybe gonna see something around February, maybe March. I mean, who knows what the first part of 2020 is gonna be? Maybe it could be all up until the very middle of 2020 for all we know. So we are getting a new raid. It's been almost the Sith raid's been about a year and a half now, and they're planning on bringing it early 2020. And one of the parts inside of this raid is going to involve a ship component. And I mean, my thoughts are getting a little excited. Are we talking a Death Star raid here? Are we talking a Death Star raid here, ladies and gentlemen? That's what I want to know. And that'd be very cool if they bring it, because you're gonna have the characters maybe infiltrate the Death Star, and then maybe you'll have a ship component where you blow up the Death Star at the very end. It would be very cool to finally take more use out of all these ships. And I think this the last bit of ship content I have to talk about right now is that one of the problems of ships is that we just don't have enough leaders. One of the great things about the character content is that there are so many great leaders, and that's why in Grand Arena it's so much fun, because you can go from Newt lead to then Jedi Knight Revan lead to Darth Revan to Palpatine to Bastila Shan. There's so many great leaders. Even if it might not be the top tier team to use, they're still great for a variety of things. Right now it's kind of Akbar or bust. I mean, now we're starting to get people getting negotiator, but still Akbar is such an amazing capital ship to use. Their plans is that starting at the end of this year, their goal is to try to get more capital ships out, because more capital ships means more theory crafting possibilities. It means more teams that you can use. Of course, you'll have your top tier ship teams, but then you'll have some other ships that you could be using. So they're looking to add more leaders for ships throughout the last part of this year and hopefully next year as well. And then they're also hoping to release more individual ships as well. And then the raid is in very early stages, and again, they're shooting for early 2020 for the release of this raid apparently. So we have some leftover stuff we got to talk about here. I want to talk about their roadmap they have right now. They're basically, we first got the confirmation of a new epic confrontation event back in the August Q&A session, and September passed, no epic confrontation, and now they said they're in the finishing work of the epic confrontation, so we might see it this month in October, as we're kind of speculating General Skywalker helping us get ready for light side territory battles, which they also said light side territory battles will be tuned towards Relic. So Gear 12 probably won't cut as much. Gear 13 might not be cutting as much either. It's going to be more tuned towards Relic. So epic confrontation is going to happen, and then they're going to start getting us ready for episode 9 content. So the speculation of the epic confrontation event is going to be something for episode 9 seems to be disconnected, because it seems like it's going to be epic confrontation, light side territory, then episode 9 stuff. So people who are thinking it's going to be a first order resistance epic confrontation, doesn't seem to be the case. It still seems like this new epic confrontation event will be surrounding the Clone Wars era to some sort, whether it's Grievous capital ship or maybe an Anakin Skywalker. And to kind of talk about this topic just a little bit further, their goal is to work on Rise of Skywalker content, but this also is going to include episode 7 and episode 8. So there's a lot. We were hoping for a lot more episode 8 content. We did not get that much, maybe just because the movie wasn't, that was very controversial, or maybe they just didn't have time to make all that episode 8 stuff. We're hoping for Snoke, BB9, and some of the Praetorian guards. We got nothing of that sort, but seeing that they're going to do Rise of Skywalker characters but also dip back into 7 and 8, it's kind of a good sign. I kind of want some more 7 and 8 stuff before we do some Rise of Skywalker content. And the last thing I want to talk about in terms of new content they're working on, or that are at least in the ideation stage, a question came up whether we're going to have like a non-combat related element to the game, such as politics, economy, or society, which I do like those games. It's kind of fun trying to rise the power base, because there was a Star Wars game that was in the works by EA. I think they scrapped it. It was called Star Wars Rise the Power, I believe. It was in beta and all that stuff, or alpha, I don't know. Never made it through, but the politics aspect would be kind of cool. So they are working on something that kind of leans more on the story and theme. So basically, as I said in their words, we have a pending feature design that leads into iconic Star Wars stories and themes and uses the stats and powers of your characters to move through these stories. It's farther down the road for us, though definitely on our radar. So again, that's kind of the last a bit of new content stuff they talked about. So let's kind of wrap up the rest of this conversation, talking about things like territory wars as well as relics, because they did kind of give us some insight in terms of what relic abilities are going to look like, and it looks like they could possibly add more relic levels down the road, people. Territory war bonuses. A while ago we had an experimental phase where they would throw some pretty big bonuses for, let's say, Mace Windu, General Grievous before he had his rear, Count Dooku, Cup, and Jawas, Geonosians, and I loved it. I love the fact that that Darth Revan, or whatever the case may be, isn't the #1 team for every single game. However, apparently a lot of people didn't agree. Some people do not like those type of changes. They like just using the same team over and over again in every single place. So the territory war bonuses is something they're trying to explore a bit more, to introduce customizable experiences into the game where you can opt to take on greater challenges in exchange for greater rewards. That might be the way to incentivize this. I think it'd be fun where a team that's not that dominant, I don't know, let's just throw out some examples. First order team's a team that's falling out of favor, but give them those bonuses. So in territory wars, they're like one of the top 5 teams to use, whereas right now territory wars is really just a reskin of arena and grand arena in terms of the meta diversity that's going on here. So I think that would be great to have some sort of way to bring territory war bonuses back, or just make characters fantastic again. Mace Windu, when he had his bonuses, he was a Sith Slayer, and it was so much fun. And I'm a bit disappointed that a lot of people didn't like those bonuses, apparently. Because trust me, I think I would work on characters if they were really good for territory wars, because there was a special bonus for them. That's why I geared up Mace Windu, because I liked using him for territory wars. That's just a personal example right there. Grand Arena, they're working on a replay functionality. I know right now their immediate plan is to help SWGoH.gg keep battle logs, so you can at least see on paper what team was brought up against your team in Grand Arena. But they are working on a replay feature, and they think this is a very important feature for the future of Galaxy. That would really minimize cheating, because if you're seeing a replay and you're seeing Cup soloing your Darth Revan, you'll probably be like, something's not right here when you're accessing the gameplay. And also you get get to learn from how people tackle on teams. You can know how good your team is, how bad your team is. I think that's the ultimate thing that could possibly be added. It's great to see they're finally adding that to Galaxy of Heroes, at least some point down the road. It looks like it's not happening anytime soon. And let's wrap up with some Relic talk, ladies and gentlemen. And the three things I want to talk about here is, are there going to be new additional tiers to Relic? So Relic 8, 9, 10, for example. The system is designed so they can add more Relic levels in the future, but as of the short term, which it's hard to define what short term is, there are no additional plans to bring 8, 9, 10, but that could mean down the road, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, a year down the road, they could add the next set of levels. So I was hoping they'd stop at 7, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. It's going to be something they reconsider at the end of the year as they continue to add on top of the current Relic system, because we'll talk about Relic abilities in a moment, and they have to reshape the existing economy while exploring a new power space. I said this a lot. The Relic system would be taken a lot better if the current in-game economy for gear was a bit better. We reduced the Cantina energy from 100 to 50 crystal refreshes and get other ways to get more gear, because I said, if you checked the other day, I made that Ugnaught video saying how Ugnaught helps get the Relic 5 very easily free to play, but 6 and 7 are a lot more challenging. Those are the areas which need a lot of work to improve on. Relic abilities, we know that they're coming. We don't know exactly the details as to when and how you unlock abilities. We think that Relic 7's when you unlock abilities, if you look at that trailer for Relics not too long ago. And the question is everyone getting a Relic or just a few characters? And that's a big question. Let's say you're leveling up, I don't know, Commander Luke Skywalker. He's an okay Relic character right now, not maybe the top one to go for, but the question is, if I'm going to invest in this character, what if he doesn't get an ability? But let's say General Grievous and all these other characters, General Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, they get brand new abilities. I feel like my investment didn't pay off that much. So it is a pretty important thing right now. So they're not sure yet. They kind of said there's a chance they limit how many characters get it, but there's a chance that everyone will get a Relic ability. So they're not sure exactly what they're going to be doing just yet, but when they get closer to the release, they'll start figuring out and they'll communicate the list of characters that will get it, and maybe if everyone will get them. And that is going to wrap it up for today, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot to talk about compared to most Q&A sessions. I do like when they do these monthly Q&As because they give us more insight. It's kind of nice knowing the progression of things instead of just saying, hey, there's an epic confrontation event happening tomorrow. It's nice knowing since August that they are working on something. Of course, we don't know the details of things like the epic confrontation and the raid and Relic abilities, but having these kind of monthly check-ins so we can personally talk to the studio, it's kind of a nice way to so you know the beats of what's going on in Galaxy of Heroes. Like the video if you did enjoy it, comment down below, and be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing, and I'll talk to all the other people in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Party Richter, Party Richter. Get down, 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 down. Party Richter, Party Richter. Son of a bitch. Party Richter, Party Richter. Get down, down, down.